I am excited to be here with you today for the All I Want for Christmas is No Drama. I'm Tomi Bryan. I'm going to be the facilitator, and we're going to take a deep dive into the structure of conflict and drama's role in it. And we'll use some of the tools from Emotional Intelligence 3.0 that will help us understand drama and its place in conflict. And Emotional Intelligence 3.0 is a map of emotional evolution and a set of tools that reliably turn overwhelm into capacity and potential into performance. But before we jump into the material, I wanted to share with you why I'm passionate about understanding emotional evolution. I had a chaotic childhood that haunted me long into adulthood. I'm not alone in that. First, my mother was abandoned by her dad and raised in a children's home. She didn't have emotional safety while she was there. Her needs of love and belonging weren't met. Thus, she couldn't give me what she didn't have. Second, my dad's dad died when he was 5 or 6, and his mother had 8 children to take care of. But she also had to find full-time work at a time when women weren't readily welcomed into the workforce, and she was frazzled. She didn't have time to provide emotional safety needs of love and belonging to my dad either. And then those two people got married and had 4 children. I'm the baby. And unfortunately, I was born deathly ill, which just totally added a layer of chaos to the family system. My parents would go years without speaking to other family members. Someone was always in the doghouse with my grandmother. And, you know, when I was born deathly ill, we went from a 2-ring circus to a 3-ring circus. And my parents in the medical community weren't sure I was going to survive, so they focused on my physical safety. But I had a hypothalamus dysfunction that caused my temperature to rise to 105, and I got packed in ice to try to keep me alive. So they were really focused physically. But what no one realized is that a hypothalamus dysfunction also causes mood disorders. My moods were not regulated, and we didn't understand this, and I became a rager. Boy, I would just melt down and scream and yell and have a fit, and I didn't understand it. I'd become so angry so quickly. I'd start fights. I was always in conflict, and I would get angry so quickly. I had no control over it. And in the next minute, when it was over, I'd be like, "Oh my, what just happened?" And as someone who's dedicated to building people up, I was always devastated by what I could leave in my wake in terms of emotional dysfunction and hurt and harm. And what I realized is I had to live my way through it. What I share today is part of the larger body of work I call emotional evolution. It's the hard fought wisdom I gained from trying to understand emotional safety, how I choose to love and belong and exercise that right in the world for myself. We'll talk more about emotional safety. So, what we're learning today is the centerpiece of drama. And, I use my own family system as the wisdom. And there's no finger wagging here. There's only deep love, respect, and awe for what the human mind concocts to keep itself safe. It's a beautiful thing. And some of what we're going to do today may feel triggering. And we're going to start off with a quick exercise. So if that happens for you, you can use the exercise to calm the central nervous system. So if you're comfortable doing so, just close your eyes for a second and take a few deep breaths in and out. Just and what I've discovered is there's this beautiful safety in ourselves through the ritual of the in and out of breathing. So just follow your breath in as it hits your nose and goes down your airways into the lungs. And then focus on the exhale. Bring up the air, follow it out of the nose, in and out. And there's a safety in that ritual of in and out. So if you feel yourself, maybe your central nervous system's getting a little off because you don't want to think about maybe the person in your life who causes you the most drama, find safety in your breath. All right. We're taking the gloves off and we're jumping right in. What I'd like for you to do is first think of the person you most struggle with during the holidays. Is it mom, dad, sibling, cousin, significant other, a group of family members or coworkers. Second, after you name the person, think about how does it start? Is it something they say or do? Is it something you say or do? Or is it their mere presence, the energy field they bring into the room? Now keep that in mind, who they are, what they do, or how it starts. Might simply be their presence. Keep that in mind as we go through our conflict management tools, because drama starts with conflict. All of what we're going to do today is aimed at giving you a new structure to stand inside of during conflict so you don't default to past patterns. And if you do become entangled in conflict and drama, we have a process for disentangling as well. And so here's our structure for today. First of all, we're going to talk about a core framework I use called noticing and naming. It's the organizing principle that bridges how you see conflict and what you can do about it. It's a real game changer. Second, we're going to look at mental models. These are the ways that we construct meaning in our lives, how we think about things. There's specific lenses that support the noticing and the naming. And what it does is it allows us to see the structure of the dynamics that are happening underneath drama so that it becomes visible, and then you can hold it differently and evolve it instead of remaining in the same dramatic place over and over. And then we've got tools. I love building tools. I'm a tool builder. So we're going to look at tools that are techniques that transform. These are actionable, offering you a different path forward instead of having to go through the conflict to get to the other side. Let's talk about the workshop structure and the core framework of notice, name, and shift. This is actually I think maybe the most profound tool I might be offering you today. And this is the tool you'll get to practice. And we're going to notice, we're going to name, and we're going to shift. Each is a level of awareness that we deepen into, and it's the container for the rest of the work. Now, you've already practiced noticing. How did you practice noticing? You named the person, and you noticed, you went back in your mind, right? You noticed maybe an event from last holiday, and then you named the person and maybe named what the triggering thing is. So you've noticed who or what is the primary agitator, what triggers it, and you've named them, which is the next step in the core framework, right? Name. But let's talk about notice. And notice is really becoming aware of what's actually happening in yourself and the other person, in the dynamic between you. Does the temperature in the room go up? You're just noticing without reacting. So that's just a new level of awareness. Now, gosh, I can't believe I've forgotten the woman's name. She did a lot of research on awareness. And what her research showed is that 91% of us think that we're aware, but only 15% of us really are. So noticing is a really important skill for raising your own level and skill of awareness. And the thing about noticing is it's the moment you sort of just step back just enough to see what you're inside of. What's the structure I'm inside of? How do I feel? What do I think the other person's feeling? What thought loop is running? Is it, oh my gosh, here we go again? I can't believe this is happening again. Or you're doing this to me again? Or this is unbelievable. Or the pattern that's unfolding. Is this person showing up in the room and immediately taking you back to the moment when you were 12 and X, Y, or Z happened? This is really just noticing. It's observation with curiosity rather than judgment. And this is key. When you're noticing, it's curiosity. It's not judgment. Oh, what is the dynamic I'm observing here? Because you can't really engage it differently if we're just going to have the same thoughts about it. It's the shift from, oh, this is happening to me to, oh, I see this happening. This is not being done to me. This is a thing that's occurring in the moment that I'm in. Now, what am I going to do about it? It's that shift from, this is happening to me, poor pitiful me, to, oh, I'm in a moment with other people. And that's such a strategic shift to how we manage the conflict as it unfolds. We love to name things. Think about when you're ill or you have a cough or a cold. Oh, is this COVID? Is this RSV? Is this seasonal allergies? I mean, we want to know what it is. We want to name the thing because when we name it, it has a shape, it has a label. It's a structure that makes it tangible and workable. When we don't have language for it, when we don't have a name for it, it's very hard for us to interact and engage. All right, so what else about naming? Okay, so it's the move from vague awareness, something's off here, to specific articulation. Oh, I'm feeling defensive. Oh, you know what? I'm angry. Oh, you know what? I'm feeling blamed here. Or this is about control. This is not an actual issue. And then naming makes the invisible visible so we can hold it differently. Once we give it that name, we can hold it. We've taken it outside of us so we can hold it differently. It's not inside of us controlling. And then when you name something accurately, it often loses its power over you. How beautiful is that? And that's because you're moved from being in it to being able to reference it. So when we don't give it a name, it has us. When we can give it a name and hold it externally, it's a different relationship with that thing. And that changes how we manage the context that we're in. The last thing we're looking at is shift. So we notice and we name it. Noticing and naming it can help us, but it's really when we make the shift that something transforms. It's the moment you choose to move through the moment differently, when awareness becomes action and the pattern changes. Essentially, what this does is allows us to create a different outcome, and it's the shift that's actually the biggest intervention. It's the pivot, it's the conscious choice to step out of the automatic reaction and try something new. Because most of us, I mean, the reason why conflict is a problem, and we'll talk about it in a minute, is the central nervous system gets hijacked and we go to automatic pilot. This is why this is one of the most difficult movements in all of emotional evolution, to move from allowing the autonomic system to react instead of us pausing and responding. And we'll talk more about that in a minute and how we change that. And so this is not about just understanding conflict differently, but actually being different within it. It's changing your move, your stance, and your relationship to what's unfolding. It can be subtle, that movement. It can be a pause. It can be a breath. It can be a reframe. Now, think about when we first started. Did that little breathing activity change anything for you at all? That's a central nervous system settler for me. So even just taking a breath is actually a shift. This doesn't have to be sophisticated. This doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be that's it. We'll talk more about that as we go along. Now we're going to shift from that core framework to the mental models. But one of the most, I think, important things about the mental models and conflict and drama is to shift how we think about conflict. And I love this quote by Ronald Reagan: "Peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means." Because this is what we know, right? What we know is there's always going to be conflict. It's not conflict that's the problem, it's the drama that's layered on top of it. It's not that there is conflict, it's are you confident and skilled enough to navigate it with grace and ease? Can you take that breath? Can you shift? Can you not enter the ring for the drama show? And then it requires noticing and naming the disharmony and then shifting. That's the skill. That's how we navigate it. Notice, name, shift. Notice, name, shift. And I'm an executive coach, and sometimes when my clients tell me about their conflicts, I get a little too excited. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And they look at me like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I say that because I see conflict as the chance for something new to emerge. Instead of repeating the same old, When the conflict shows up, this means, oh, there's the possibility for something new to emerge. All right, let's jump into the mental models. Let's talk conflict. And conflict is actually a cognitive load on our personal power. Most people don't see it as that. When conflict shows up, what we want or need to feel physically or emotionally safe is at risk. And so we get anxious. The central nervous system begins to act up. Before we even cognitively know, before it even registers in the mind that we feel unsafe, physically or emotionally, neuroception has alerted the internal autonomic system that something's amiss. So the body's already moving long before the mind is aware of it. And that's where, and this is the critical moment where the system gets hijacked. Your mental ability to manage the conflict with grace and ease gets hijacked. And all of this is happening outside of our awareness. So one of the things we're working on is how do we bring this, oh, this is a conflict. Let me behave differently in this moment. And the first understanding that we have that we feel unsafe or we feel like power's at risk is we feel fear or anger. And that's the central nervous system winding up to get ready for a fight. Fear is, oh, do I need to run here? Anger pumps blood through the system. Do I need to put my dukes up here? What do I need to do here to make sure I feel safe? And neuroception is the bodily process designed to constantly scan, even when you're not aware of it. It's just always scanning. It scans for physical threats, and because of our childhood, it scans for emotional safety threats. And those emotional safety threats are the ones to love and belonging. And the body perceives a conflict as a threat. Oh, it looks like I'm not safe here anymore. It looks like I'm not going to have my needs met. And when the alarm has been sounded, our body's in motion before the mind catches up. We might walk away from a heated exchange thinking to ourselves, what just happened? And if you're wondering what that looks like, and now I'm not trying to pick on anybody, it's just one of those prime examples of what happens when the system gets hijacked. And if you think about Will Smith when he hit Chris Rock on national TV, Will Smith was surprised as anybody about what he did. And so that's a prime example of what happens when neuroception hijacks somebody's behavior and they do things that they regret. And I'm not picking on Will, just trying to show that pattern. Now, let's look at the model of conflict. There are 3 types of conflict, destructive and constructive, and then nested within constructive conflict is this really powerful way of being called allowing. It's a rare form. Only about 1% of the population are able to leverage that. How do I know that? I've done research on 1,500 different participants across 3 different studies to try to understand how this plays out. And based on our emotional safety strategies, only 1% of us are truly free from those. So it's a human condition. It's not something to be judged. It's something to be welcomed and explored. So let's look at what destructive conflict is. It's disagreement marked by drama, incivility, antagonism, personal attacks, and a focus on winning at others' expense. And drama is the container, and those are the specific behaviors that occur in it that equal destructive conflict. So now, constructive conflict, that's actually sharing influence through open, respectful dialogue that prioritizes co-creation and understanding. Nestled within constructive conflict is this very rare form of constructive conflict called allowing. And it's really where we're generating creative solutions. It's this magical thing where everybody's in the moment. You've brought everybody into the moment with you and something magical happens. And you're integrating the diverse perspectives. It's not you get to say your opinion and it's considered. It's these perspectives are integrated, and it's a very different thing. And I hope that distinction lands. And our goal is to move from destructive to constructive across our lifetime and hopefully find ourselves in allowing. What's the structure of destructive conflict? So we just looked at the mental model of conflict. Now we're focusing and narrowing in on the structure of destructive conflict itself. And it's drama. The structure of destructive conflict is drama. And that's the emotional and behavioral manifestation of how people respond to conflict and power dynamics under stress. And that's because conflict makes us think we're not safe, and that lack of safety triggers stress. That's what neuroception is all about. It sends the central nervous system into a frenzy. We're about to be attacked. And so off we go, right? And drama rears its head. And drama is not our natural state. It's actually the storytelling layer we put on top of power struggles and conflicts. It's the narratives, it's the heightened feelings, it's the interpersonal dynamics that emerge. It's not your true nature. It's a thing we do, it's a pattern we have, but it is not who we are. And while conflict can be productive, drama tends to be the unproductive amplification of conflict through emotional reactions and escalations. And that's because the moment the central nervous system thinks it's not safe, it will do all it can for self-preservation. And what that self-preservation does is, I'm moving you back to safety. It's a beautiful thing. I'm moving you back to safety. I'm moving you back to safety. Can't care about what the real conflict is. Can't care about the problem we're trying to solve. I need to move you to safety. It's a beautiful thing, but it doesn't always serve the moment. There's a very specific structure to drama. It's called the Karpman Drama Triangle. Anybody here heard of the Drama Triangle? This was developed by Dr. Stephen Karpman, and he became very fascinated by human dynamics. And what he discovered is the drama triangle, and it reveals a fascinating yet troubling pattern in human conflict, one that operates like this perpetual motion machine of emotional entanglement. And at its core, it has three interconnected roles: the persecutor, the victim, and the rescuer. But rather than existing as fixed positions, these roles function like three acts in the same play, with participants unconsciously swapping costumes mid-scene. I can start out as the prosecutor and wind up as the rescuer, or I can start out as the victim and move to the persecutor. It's a compelling lens into how a person uses personal power during conflict in a way that undermines collaboration. I'm a former lawyer, so I keep saying prosecutor instead of persecutor. I'm waiting for the prosecutor to show up. So the persecutor's best summarized as, that's your fault. It's not my fault. The persecutor's never going to take responsibility. They're always going to blame somebody else when conflict happens. Under the stress of conflict, the persecutor blames. The victim is best summarized as poor, pitiful me. That's the person who's going to shut down. And then the rescuer is best summarized as, I can help. I can fix this. And these are all born out of how we experienced the emotional betrayals that made us feel emotionally unsafe as children. We are trying to figure out how to be safe, and we watch our parents play these roles, so we adopt them as well. And language is the key indicator of the role someone is playing. You don't have to be a master at this. You just have to listen to the language. The more participants try to break free through these roles, the more entrenched and entangling the patterns become. Understanding this dynamic offers a crucial first step toward stepping off or stepping out of this triangle and nurturing healthier, more balanced relationships. I have people say to me, you mean I have to do everything? I'm the one who has to see this. I'm the one who has to step out of it. Well, it's your choice. But if you want something different and the other person's not able to step out of it, you're going to have to be the one that's brave and courageous enough to do that. And what runs these three drama roles are three emotional safety strategies that developed in childhood. The persecutor is the control by better than emotional safety strategy. I am better than everybody else. This could never be my fault. This has to be your fault. And that's a protection mechanism. There's no judgment. The victim is the control by withdrawing emotional safety strategy at high volume. These safety strategies run at low volume and high volume. When conflict shows up, they all go up. The volume gets turned up and they're at high intensity. The rescuer is the control by helping emotional safety strategy at high volume. And they're always running in the background at low intensity, and conflict turns up the volume. And so in this mental model of victim, persecutor, rescuer, what the research I've done shows that 99% of the population has an active or influencing drama role. That means that for 99% of the human population, these roles are active or influencing. It means we're exhibiting patterns of them. And there's something profoundly unifying about recognizing that these patterns are simply part of the human experience and not personal failings. It's what the person is doing to try to remain safe in the conversation or in the moment. And if we can, and we're going to talk about that with another mental model, but that's the point. Rather than becoming the fire breathing dragon, which was my favorite route, somebody antagonized me, it was like, "Rawr!" But that never really resolved anything. And so the understanding that only 1% of people have fully transcended these patterns reinforces the notion that this is our shared human conditioning rather than individual shortcomings. So when you're watching somebody do this, it's like, oh, I recognize this. I know what this is. Oh, I wonder what caused that for them. Something really bad must have happened in their childhood for them to do this. And something bad happening doesn't mean their parents were bad people. It just meant the way that the child experienced it. For some reason, the child thought A and parents did B. Not good, not bad, just is. None of us are bad people. We just have interpretations of the way things went down. So we're all navigating similar emotional terrain and challenges. It's not about being broken. It's not about needing to be fixed. It's about understanding these are common human patterns and supporting each other and growing beyond them when we're ready. When we relinquish control of our choices to these three drama roles, our capacity to collaborate basically disappears because we've gone in protection mode. We're being defensive. All we want to do is remain safe. And so we're tending to personal needs rather than addressing the challenge in front of us. And that explains why some things never get resolved. We never get to have a conversation about the core issue because the patterns of a drama role intervene. Let's dissect each of the roles. The victim perceives themselves as unable to take care of their own needs and is anxious about the prospects. And what I've learned is perceiving themselves as unable to take care of their own needs might mean they may not have the communication skills to articulate what they need. And this is really profound, is that some of us can rip off words in a second, and some of us have to step back and think about it. And so sometimes, I'll say things, I'll start a difficult conversation with my husband who can't think of things in the moment. He has to walk away and ponder it. I'll say, listen, I don't need you to do anything about this right now, but here's what's coming up for me. So maybe tomorrow or Friday at lunch, when you're ready, we can circle back on this and have the conversation. And then I'll tell him what's coming up for me, because he just does go to the wall of silence if I'm not careful about how I speak into what's happening for him. The victim also feels powerless to affect changes and are often overwhelmed by what we call the lessness, hopelessness, helplessness, and powerlessness. They basically have had the rug pulled out from them and they have basically surrendered to the moment, and that's why they withdraw. They feel like they have no power here, I'm withdrawing. So it's really important, and we'll see this in a minute, to make sure they feel like they have power. And when individuals adopt this role, I've talked about it, they're paralyzed by the lessness. And they usually control the situation by making others responsible for solving their challenges. What the silence does is, I don't have any responsibility here. I'm not talking, I'm not communicating, I'm just going to go silent. That takes us to the persecutor. And this person avoids confronting their faults. Instead, they're just directing blame at others. And really, they're probably in denial about their tendency to shift responsibility to others. They will exhibit patterns such as bullying, threatening, and dominating to ensure that you understand you're the problem, not them. They typically dominate a situation through blame tactics. Here's something really important to know that the research shows us about blame. When you blame someone, it actually is received by them as being physically assaulted. Blame is very harmful to those you are in relationship with because it feels like a physical assault and they will move away from you. And then they just throw their defenses up because they feel like they've just been physically assaulted. The victim is the most powerful because they shut everything down by their unwillingness to move forward or talk. But the persecutor is the most harmful to others because of the blame. Then we have the rescuer. The rescuers feel that person playing this role feels compelled to help others by fixing whatever they perceive as wrong, often neglecting their own needs. They feel resentful and unappreciated because they're fixing everything, and they can continue to focus on the problems of others, waiting for someone to help them, and no one ever does, and they get exhausted by being the rescuer role. And then this is a pattern of self-sacrifice, with rescuers neglecting their own well-being, and they typically control the situation by taking responsibility for fixing the issue at hand. Now, what I want to talk about is all three of these roles are about taking control. The victim takes control by withdrawing. I'm just not participating. You can't make me, and I'm not going to. The persecutor takes control by blaming. It's your fault this went wrong. It's not mine. So with the rescuer basically tries to control by solving. Oh, I can fix this. This is manageable. I can do this. And the challenge with the rescuer is that society sees helping as noble. So helping is a good thing. So we regularly reinforce and reiterate the rescuer. And like I said, we can play each of these in the same conversation, but we usually have a favorite one that we use to enter the triangle. I love the rescuer. It's predominantly what I do, but my husband sees me as the persecutor. So it's interesting because just because you think you're playing one thing, the other in the conversation may think you are something else, and it's just their perception. Here's the interesting thing. What makes the drama triangle compelling is how it creates this self-sustaining ecosystem of low collaboration. The rescuer's help reinforces the victim's sense of powerlessness. The victim's helplessness triggers the persecutor's criticism, and the persecutor's attacks prompts others to step in as rescuers. So you can see it's an emotional merry-go-round that we get on, and we just go round and round. As my mother would say, who lived in the country, we go round and round like the button on the outhouse door. And when we shift roles, we actually think we're moving forward, but really what we're doing is we're spinning in place. We're just spinning in place. When we relinquish control of our choices, because when we're in the drama triangle, it's choosing for us, we're not choosing for ourselves. It means that we're probably not going to resolve whatever confrontation we're in the middle of. And that's because we're protecting with these roles rather than trying to solve what's in front of us. A couple of years ago, a colleague suggested I read the book Us by Terry Real. He's a world-renowned relationship coach and therapist. He's like the last thing before divorce court for many marriages. And when I was reading his book, his model on the cadence of every relationship changed the way I see relationships forever. What he says is relationships go through the same circle: harmony, disharmony, repair. Harmony, disharmony, repair. And when we are unable to repair, the divide in the relationship grows. So for a while, I was focusing on, all right, let's figure out how to repair. That's the thing we need to be doing. But really what we need to be doing is we need to notice and name when the disharmony occurs. Because by the time we get to repair, it means the conflict's already happened. And we've probably left what I call trapped energy in our wake. We hurt some feelings, or they hurt ours. So we both walk away feeling dissatisfied with the conversation. So I realized I need to back that up. It's not about repair. It's about naming the tension and the disharmony before it gets any further. And that way, when we can name the tension, when we notice and name it, we can move to co-creation faster. And if we miss that opportunity, which I've done a lot in my life, then we can select the right tool for repair. Let's talk about the last mental model. This comes from, if you've ever read the book, A Course in Miracles. It's a really thick book. I just never wanted to read it. It just sort of seemed overwhelming to me. So I said to a colleague who participated in a Course in Miracles class, give me the 3-sentence short version, the cliff notes of what it's all about. And he goes, oh, everything is either a cry of love or a cry for love. Everything in the world is either a cry of love or a cry for love. And playing a drama role is a cry for love. I don't feel safe. I don't know how to articulate that. So I'm going to attempt to control the situation with a pattern. When a conflict starts and you see someone go into the drama role, one of your first thoughts should be, oh, they don't feel safe. This is a cry for love. And as I've mentioned before, the victim is usually the most powerful person in the room because they'll withdraw or shut down, which stops all forward progress. So their cry for love is, I don't know what to do here. I am lost. So I'm just going to shut down. Persecutor is, oh, I'm at a loss here and I don't feel safe, so I'm going to blame. And the rescuer goes, oh, I don't feel safe here, so I'm going to try to help as a way to alleviate my own tension. And here's the beautiful thing about understanding that the drama role is a cry for love. You don't have to answer every cry for love. You don't have to answer every cry of love. It's your choice. And the bigger choice is not am I going to answer it, but if I am, how am I going to answer it? Am I going to play the drama role or am I going to do something different? And so that leads us to this. Oh, I can see it. I can name it. Now what? Oh, there's the drama role. This is wonderful. What do I do now? So let's talk about some tools that can help you shift. Tool 1 is the pause. And I love this quote from the Tiny Buddha. Pause before judging. Pause before assuming. Pause before accusing. Pause whenever you're about to react harshly, and you'll avoid doing and saying things you'll later regret. The thing is, that's simply the breath we did at the very beginning. Just a breath is a pause. And that pause gives you space to feel what's happening for you. Before you take any external action, go within and assess by noticing and naming. The pause gives you the space to notice and name. And you notice what's happening internally. And then name whatever you're feeling. Because remember now, naming it frees us from it. Oh, I feel mad for some reason. Oh, I'm disappointed because here we go again. Oh, really? This one again? I don't know about you guys. I've been married for 36 years. And one of my husband's favorite lines is, oh, I forgot. And it just burns me up. No, you didn't forget. When he says that, I have to go inside and I go, oh, yeah, okay. I'm mad about that. I know he didn't forget, but now how do I solve the problem? Because I don't want to spiral down into a disagreement. Sometimes it's important to articulate, listen, I just need some space to process for a second. This has nothing to do with the conversation and everything to do with me. So I'm just going to walk away for a minute and I'll come back and we can finish the conversation. I'm not ducking anything. And it's very important. I have to give myself that space sometimes. I just have to walk away. The second tool is identify the conflict type. First, rule out, is this a pseudo conflict? So many conflicts are just a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. And that creates the appearance of disagreement. It can look like this. Are we saying the same thing just in a different language? I can't tell you how many times that happens because that's not really a conflict. That's just a miscommunication. So clear that up and then we don't have a conflict. And then second, if it's not a pseudo conflict, let's break down what type of conflict it can be. There's task conflict, and that's a disagreement about goals, facts, or decisions. There's process conflict. That's disagreement about methods, workflow, or responsibilities. How is this work getting done? And then there's relationship conflict. That's what most of us experience. Personal or interpersonal tension. And there can be a values conflict, an ego conflict, or a meta conflict where we're just arguing about arguing. Now, what does this look like? I have met, lawyers like to argue for argument's sake. The thing to know about tool 2 is this is you noticing the disharmony and naming it. So when we can notice the disharmony and name it, that allows us to hopefully have different outcomes. So tool 3 is play the empowered role. When someone emits static, pause and think, what role are they playing? Are they the persecutor, the rescuer, the victim? And the language that they're using will help you identify that. Are they blaming? Are they withdrawing? Or are they trying to help? I can't believe you did that, or you should tell them to move on, or why are you doing this to me? When they're using that language, we can usually identify the role from that. Then pick the empowered role. And what am I talking about? So David was a friend of mine. Unfortunately, he passed away in May. Very sad for those of us who loved his work. He wrote the book called The Power of Ted. And it's a parable about the victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And what he realized is these are the disempowered roles, and there are empowered roles. So you want to identify the role that the other person is playing, and then pick the empowered role to play for yourself. When we can play the empowered role, we're not frozen in place. Here's what those empowered roles look like. The first role, that is the opposite of the persecutor, is the challenger. The persecutor says it's your fault. If somebody's saying it's your fault, you should say, well, tell me more about that. This was a team project, so I'm trying to figure out how the responsibility isn't shared. If the person is the victim, you're going to respond to them as the creator. So this is really important for those people that you run into who are stonewalling. If you're having no conversation with this person, if they've totally shut you out, there's nothing you can do. You can't make people talk to you. You can't make people stand in front of you and engage in conversation. But what you can do is understand that they shut down to protect themselves. They're stonewalling. They're not participating because they think it's the only way they can protect themselves. If you're able to have a conversation with them, you can say, I invite you to see what might be created differently here. What 3 action steps could you take that might change the outcome? And you're just essentially inviting them over and over to create. That's the opposite of the victim. You've got to be the creator. And then with the rescuer, it's the coach. The rescuer takes on the responsibility themselves. Listen, I can fix that for you. How many of you have heard, not my circus, not my elephants? The rescuer takes on the responsibility. The way the rescuer doesn't do that is the rescuer coaches the other person. Well, so tell me what it would look like if you could solve this. I know that you have the capacity to do this. I've seen you do this before in da-da-da-da-da. So if you just applied those skills over here, what would that look like? Because I know you can do it. And so when we notice the drama role that the person is playing, become the opposite. Challenger, creator, coach. And these are all the invitations. These are just invitations to the other person to become more empowered and make a different choice. When you behave differently, sometimes other people don't know what to do, and so they just walk away. Or they ramp up their assault on you. Because you're doing something different that they don't expect, you're going to get a couple different things. Things to remember about the empowered role in the drama triangle. It takes 2 people to entangle in the drama triangle. That means you got to participate for it to happen. And just because someone wants to be on the merry-go-round doesn't mean you have to hop on too. Somebody has to be brave enough to pause and shift. And just because you can't doesn't mean you should. Choose the empowered role and it will change everything about what happens next. And this is where an important shift happens. You're brave enough to say, I choose not to play the drama game because I really want to resolve this issue. We keep dancing around but never solving. This is you shifting right here. Notice, name, shift. We notice the drama role we're playing. We name it. We shift to the empowered role, and it's going to change the outcome. Tool 4, deeply listen. Listen to what is being offered. Most of us listen so that we can then respond. We want to give you some advice or share a story about what's happening to the other person that happened in our life. Listen to not to build a case, We listen to build a case for why the other person is wrong. We listen to understand whether it's a cry of love or a cry for love. So we're going to deeply listen. That's the tool so that we can then use the mental model of, oh, is this a cry for love or a cry of love? Because I'm going to respond differently. If it's a cry of love, I might just hug them and say thank you. If it's a cry for love via a victim, or persecutor or rescuer, I'm then going to decide if I need to respond from the empowered role or look at them and say, oh, I hear this. It doesn't feel like mine to solve, but I'm happy to listen to you. And then we just don't take it on. And in conflict, especially when drama shows up, it's usually a cry for love, meaning the person doesn't feel emotionally safe in the moment. And when you deeply listen, this is you shifting. It's you not thinking anything, but just receiving the words the other person is offering. This is tool number 5, not 4. Some days I struggle to count and speak English. Tool 5 is don't take it personally. And this is a beautiful excerpt from Falling into Grace by the American spiritual teacher and author Adyashanti. He's explaining the concept of don't take it personally. And he says, others have used words as weapons against us. They've wounded us with those words. And we all have a relationship with words that's deeply wounding. It's that destructive conflict. Having been wounded by others, words as weapons, hopefully that'll make us less likely to use our words as a weapon. If we recognize that words and all of language are a representation, not of the truth, but of someone's story, then when other people use their words as weapons, we won't be pulled into the trance of their words so much. And that's what happens in the drama triangle. We're pulled into the trance of someone else's story. And I prefer that you write your own. And if we recognize that the words aren't true, but a story, someone's telling themselves, maybe we can do something different and recognize that says more about them than about us. So choose not to take the bait. Don't bite the hook. Don't enter the ring. Don't jump on the merry-go-round. Words are just representations of what someone else's story is. I like to say to my coaching clients, 90% of what someone says to you has more to do with them than it does with you. The words you say are your story, not anyone else's. When someone is being ugly to you, that's the language of their wounds. Don't let it activate yours. If it does, then the conversation is going to deteriorate, and that trapped energy that results from it can take years to undo. So instead of letting words activate your wounds, allow them to activate your compassion. See it as a cry for love, and then decide if you need to respond. So don't take it personally. That brings us to tool 6, use the empathy formula. I love the empathy formula. It's the ability to recognize, understand, and share the thoughts and feelings of another person, animal, or fictional character. And developing empathy is crucial for establishing relationships and behaving compassionately. It involves experiencing another's point of view rather than just one's own. And what I love is DDI, Development Dimensions International, created a very simple empathy formula. It goes like this. It sounds like you're state the feeling because about the fact. This makes a person feel seen and heard. The Dalai Lama has said people need 3 things: to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved. I believe if you see them and hear them, they feel loved. I tell people, if you do this, you're getting 2 out of 3, and hitting 2 out of 3 at bats will get you in the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Empathy Hall of Fame. The next time somebody comes at you with something confrontational, you can say, oh, John, it sounds like you're upset about not being able to leave early on Christmas Eve. I know we normally close at 3:00, but we're not going to this time. You make the statement and then you get quiet. It's a simple statement. And what the empathy formula does is reflects back to someone that you hear their feeling and you hear the facts that caused it. When you do that, they feel seen and heard. And then you say it and then you wait, because the person's then going to do one of 2 things. One, they're going to say, that's exactly right. Or they're going to say, no, you're wrong, and tell you what you got wrong. So when a confrontation starts, this is a simple formula that lets you respond. It's what you should say when the conflict starts. John, it feels like you're getting upset about Christmas lunch happening at noon instead of 4. Tell me more about that. This is you shifting the trajectory of the conflict. It's a tool for naming the disharmony and repairing because you're seeing and hearing the person. Tool 6 is the circle back and the do-over. Sometimes we hit the bullseye on destructive conflict and we need to repair. So this is in the relationship cadence, we're in repair phase. The harmony has moved into disharmony and we're sitting in the disharmony and we need to know what to do next. So when we're less than kind to others in our interactions with them, it can create hard feelings and trapped energy. And this is really course correcting through the circle back and the do-over. It's instrumental for releasing the negative energy trapped by an imbalanced exchange. And it's as simple as this. I'd like to circle back on something. Remember last week when X happened? That's not the way I saw the conversation going in my head. If I could have a do-over, I would have said this. Now, I have to tell you, I did this with my son about 3 or 4 years after something happened between the two of us. And when I said this, he just hugged me and cried in the crook of my neck for about 5 minutes. I just fell apart when he did that. But I also understood I just released a really deep tension that was being held between the two of us. And that disharmony creates divide in our relationship. And that gap grows if we don't know how to repair. Actually, I had to use this in September with my brother-in-law when I said something trying to be funny that just did not come out funny. Sometimes humor can fall flat on its face. All right, so start practicing these now. Don't wait for holiday gatherings to start using these tools. They're made for everyday use. So think about, is there a conversation you need to circle back on and do over? Where do you think your edge is? Is it the pause? Is it the deep listening? Is it something else? Is it playing the empowered role? Knowing your edge, what might be the most helpful tool for you to practice right now? Let's recap what we've gone through. Core framework, notice, name, shift. Mental models that help us notice a name, and we have tools that help us shift. The mental models we went through are the conflict continuum, the drama triangle, relationship cadence, and then is it a cry for love or a cry of love? And then the tools we went through are pause, identify the conflict type, play the empowered role, deeply listen, don't take it personally, the empathy formula, circle back and do over. So here we are at the end. With that, I sign off. Take care and have the stress-free holiday season.